Bar Preppers Connect. Today we are going to walk through the July 2016 bar exams, and I will show you analytically how you should walk through your questions from top to the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen real quick and I will show you exactly how you should walk through your questions when you are trying to answer your MEE questions. Okay, let me just remove this so you don't get confused, because most bar review courses, even the NCBE past questions, they make students get confused. So let me now tell you the truth. Once you open up your MEE questions, this is how you're going to see it. You're not going to see tort law on it or contracts or family. It just comes like this, right? So what most students do basically is they go down to the end. That's what I do. I go down to the end and I read the call of the question. The man has suffered permanent liver damage and has sued to recover damages for his injury. He has suffered permanent liver damage. That damage there will immediately ring a bell, right? It is undisputed that the man's liver damage was caused by his herbal tea consumption. Looking at this herbal tea consumption, oh, this has to do with something about products liability. But you don't know yet because you've not seen anything that identifies it as tort law. You're still going down. You're still trying to think reason. The man's action is not preempted by any federal statute or regulation. Then the first question says, is the physician liable to the man under tort law? Bam, look at it. That's it. Yes, so this is what we learned. So now we have everything to tell us that yes, this is actually tort law. Yeah, that is it, tort law. And we are going down here and physician liable. Oh my God, this comes under physician liability. Okay, fine and good. We got what we need. You don't need to read further. Some persons will want to read further, but you don't even know the facts of the case. So so you're just looking at this number one. Is the physician liable to the man under tort law? So let's go up and then let us now read through the questions from up to down. We're looking at negligence. We're looking at physician liability. So let me walk you through how you should go through it. You need to go through your questions slowly, slowly, and absorb it. And then as you're reading through, you are analyzing in your mind. You understand? Now, it says, 6 months ago, a man visited his family physician, a general practitioner, for a routine examination. Based on blood tests, the physician told the man that his cholesterol level was somewhat elevated. Right? So the physician, diagnosed him of elevated cholesterol level. The physician offered to prescribe a drug that lowers cholesterol, but the man stated that he did not want to start taking drugs because he preferred to try dietary change and natural remedies first. So the physician actually offered to prescribe a drug that lowers cholesterol. Now your mind is going into what is the standard of care for physicians. I'm going to write by the side here. Physician liability. Medical doctor is only liable to a patient when evidence shows that he has failed to comply with standard of care for relevant specialty and medical community, and his failure causes the patient's injury. So the standard of care is that of the relevant specialty and medical community. Okay. The physician told the man natural remedies are not as reliable as prescription drugs and urged the man to come back in 3 months for another blood test. Now what he did here, of course, he made standard of care. He advised him on the right medication to use, but he refused. Now look at the place where it may seem like the physician was liable in a way. The physician also told the man about a recent research report showing that an herbal tea made from a particular herb can reduce cholesterol level. Now, this is where your analytical mind begins to process this information. You will need to write something here. Standard of care seem not to be met. Advice count contrary to standard of care. These are your argument points. Every fact here is here for a reason, right? So contrary to standard of care, he prescribed a particular herb. Prescribed herb, right? Okay. Need to read further to know what happened with this herb that he prescribed, which is the bone of contention here. So we're trying to determine, is the doctor liable or not? If you know your rules very well, you will know that at this point you need to remember that expert evidence is needed, because now we're talking about what he did that was contrary to what he was supposed to do. Okay, so the next paragraph says that the man purchased the herbal tea at a health food store and began to drink it. So he actually purchased the actual herbal tea that was prescribed by the doctor from a food store, right? So in this place, you can just highlight somewhere here because you want to pick all the facts that apply to your argument. So your thought is, oh, he went ahead with the doctor's advice and he bought the herbal tea. The doctor is about to be roped in. Yeah. You can even put by the side. Roped in. Just make it fun. You know, as you're reading the fact pattern, let it be fun. Let me tell you one thing about this essay questions. It's just like you're a lawyer already and someone is coming to describe to you their problem. You understand? So you're just walking the person through how the person should go about the situation. So let's now go down. 3 months ago, the man returned to his physician and underwent another blood test. Remember that the doctor had told him, okay, come back in 3 months' time to run another blood test. This blood test I did in 3 months' time. You have to write something at the side. 3 months' time, yes. He has come back for the test. So what happened in this 3 months' time? When he got back, what happened? The test showed that the man's cholesterol level had declined. Yeah, yippee. Okay, yes. The herbal medication worked. But the doctor seemed to be lucky a bit. Okay. Right? However, the test also showed that the man had an elevated white blood cell count. Now, this is where the problem is. The white blood cell count, you can just put it as white blood cell count. Oh my goodness, something is going on here. It happens that there's something that has happened that's gone wrong. The man's test results were consistent with several different infections and some type of cancer. Oh my God, this is where the doctor is trying to get roped in, right? Okay, so infections. And this is the point where you will now put negligence. You're already identifying the negligence, right? There might have been negligence in prescribing a herbal medication that even if it reduced the cholesterol, it gave the man some kind of infection, right? So now your mind is beginning to process how you will analyze. Over the next 2 weeks, the physician had the man undergo more tests. So the physician had him go for more tests just to discover what is going on. Like, seriously? You know, the test showed that the man's liver was inflamed but did not reveal the reason, right? His liver was inflamed. So what happened here, put here by the side, oh, doctor, you're getting in trouble. Doc advice, still, of course, it's still playing out here. Inflamed liver. So at this point, the doctor's advice is still playing out because we don't know the cause for the reason. So no reason revealed for inflamed liver. Okay, so we are not sure whether it's a doctor or something about the manufacturer or something. So at this point, we keep going down. You see how interesting this fact pattern is. So 2 weeks ago, in the meantime, the man continued to drink the herbal tea. So he continued. Okay, we are not sure what the cause of the inflammation is. So I could as well continue taking my herbal tea since my cholesterol reduced. So you can just put something, continued herbal tea. So the doctor is still roped. Doctor roped. You can just put doctor roped. Still roped at this point. So your argument about negligence of the doctor continues at this point. So 2 weeks ago, just before the man's scheduled consultation, right? So one of the plenty consultations that the doctor said he should come for to determine what is going on with the specialist, right? And the physician then referred the man to a medical specialist who had expertise in liver diseases. Now he had to refer him further to discover. Now let's see, something happened here. Right inside the text box, right? We're going to write inside the text box. Now, what we're going to write inside this text box is just this thing that happened here. Okay, so Dr. refer to medical specialists. You're just trying to ensure that step by step you're bringing out the point we used to argue. 2 weeks time, but patient kept taking the herbal tea. We are trying to point out another negligence here, so we can just put negligence, doctor. Continued. Did he meet local standard? Did he have noticed that the liver was inflamed because of the herbal tea and all that? That's where your argument will come out here. 2 weeks ago, just before the man scheduled consultation with the specialist, the man heard a news announcing the government investigators that the herbal tea the man had been drinking was contaminated with a highly toxic pesticide. Oh my, now here is where the doctor now has a huge lock, right? He has a huge lock here because now causation has been broken. So you can write here, no causation, broken. Why do we say that causation has been broken? So in negligence, we know we need to prove 4 different things. The doctor owed a duty. The doctor did not reach the standard of care, which we will be looking at going down, and that the actions of the doctor caused the damages, caused the injury, right? So if you have to prove every single element for the doctor to be held liable for negligence. So now it has been broken because what? A news has come out about the contamination, right? So since the herbal tea was contaminated by a toxic pesticide, it's not the doctor's fault. That you can just write here, not doctor's fault, doctor not negligent. So this is the point where you conclude that doctor is not negligent. So you can as well go and start answering your question 1 from here, because we know from here that doctor is not negligent, right? So the investigation took place after liver specialists at a major medical center realized that several patients with inflamed liver and elevated white blood cell count, like the man, were all drinking the same type of tea, and specialists reported this fact to local health department. So we're going to just put down here that causation, cause of damage is manufacturer defect. You now know that you have to now leave negligence of doctor and then come towards products liability. So you just asterisk somewhere, products liability. Okay. This is how you walk through your questions, analytical mind, right? Okay, so before we go into the products liability, let us show you how you need to argue and answer the question for the first ambit, right? So here we know that the first ambit on whether or not the doctor is liable. So this is the issue. A doctor is only liable if they breach the applicable medical standard of care and that breach causes the patient's harm. Since no breach is shown in this fact, the physician is not liable for the injury. Simple. Yeah. So your issue is, can the man recover damages under tort law from the physician? A medical doctor is liable to a patient only when the evidence shows that he has failed to comply with standard of care for the relevant specialty and medical community, and his failure causes the patient's injury. In assessing whether a doctor has met these tests, most courts compare the doctor's conduct to national standards rather than those prevailing in his or her locality, right? So they're looking at national standard, not those prevailing in the locality. Because the standard requires assessment of typical doctor's conduct, expert testimony is almost invariably necessary to establish the doctor's negligence. You see that we put that there in the question. Yeah. You can see from here, we can see standard of care, physician relevant specialty, and then we came here and we talked about expert evidence. Now, here there are 2 possible negligence claims against the physician. Negligent advice about the herbal tea, like we highlighted, there was a negligent advice. He advised him that, oh, there's a particular tea that can actually help reduce cholesterol, right? And the negligent failure to diagnose, right? Failure to diagnose. So after it happened that he had liver failure, he couldn't diagnose what was the cause. You understand? So to prevail, the man must show that the general practitioner acting with ordinary care would have acted differently, and that such compliance would have prevented the harm. Can you see the way your thought process is going? Let's go. But the fact do not show a breach, right? The physician recommended prescription drugs merely but merely mentioned the herbal tea when the patient rejected the drugs. So what, at this point, you will now start arguing whether or not the standard of care was reached. It was reached. He recommended prescription drugs, but he merely mentioned the herbal tea because the patient rejected the drugs. And there's no indication. Now, this is a place where there was a disconnect between the prescription of the herbal drink and the cause of the infection, right? So he got some liver toxicity, liver infection, which was caused by his drinking the herbal tea, which the doctor prescribed. But the doctor, of course, prescription came from reports that tea can reduce cholesterol. Did the tea reduce cholesterol? Yes, it did reduce the cholesterol. You understand? So these are arguments you can put in. Okay, it did reduce the cholesterol, but what happened? It now went and caused another problem. Now, there is no indication that the standard of care required knowledge of pesticide contamination. There's no way the doctor would have known that if he took that herbal tea, he would have gotten that contamination. Therefore, it is not the doctor's fault that he got the contamination. You understand? So that is how you just argue. And anything that comes to your mind, you need to keep throwing it in. Like, just keep throwing it in there. Keep throwing it in. On diagnosis, the physician promptly responded to abnormal test results, ordered additional testing, and referred to a specialist. This is a normal practice. You understand? Yeah. Specialists only later determined the herbal tea connected after cluster cases, right? Therefore, there is no evidence of breach or causation, and the physician is not liable. As straightforward, as simple as that. You are bringing out the facts of the case, and you are including it into your arguments. Real quick, let me stop this recording.